Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube character profile upload of Lucille Hewitt, taken from Conversation Street episode 204. This is us talking about Lucille Hewitt, having never seen an episode.
No, we didn't know anything
of her.
Didn't really
antics.
know much about Lucille Hewitt when we recorded this way back when. When was it? Like 4 years ago or so.
But now I'm an expert.
We know all about Lucille Hewitt now, so maybe we'll say a little bit more about her at the end. I've decided to upload her this week because it seems like it's all about the teens on Coronation Street at the moment. So who better to upload than Corrie's original, the OG teen. Lucille Hewitt. Right,
so listen to us talking about something we don't know anything about, which is no different from your usual experience. Here we go.
It's classic character profile time. We've taken inspiration from young Amy this week for our classic character profile, a girl who is forced to grow up under the Rover's roof, child living under a pub. Is there any
under
place for her?
Pub? What, like in a pub?
In a pub. And we're going to talk about Lucille Hewitt, the original wild child of the street. And from when Coronation Street started, she was the only kind of child actress in it. So I thought she might be quite interesting to find out about. And she is definitely a character that I didn't know really anything about. You still don't, because you haven't read the notes yet. Jen was just about to learn about Lucille Hewitt.
Let's go on a voyage of discovery together, listeners, apart from the people that already know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of people that know about her, but we have got no personal anecdotes about Lucille Hewitt, so I don't know how this is going to go, but we'll give it a go. So Lucille was born on the 4th of May 1949 to Harry and Lizzie Hewitt. She ends up getting a half-brother called Christopher, and she first appeared in Corrie on the 21st of December 1960.
And everyone knows you can't get a half-brother or sister without a tiny bit of tragedy.
Tiny bit of soap. Last appearance, she was in 1st of July 1974. After 753 appearances on the street, she was played by Jennifer Moss. So
Favourite actress.
She was cast in the role of Lucille when she was 15, despite the character being 11, which is a bit,
it's only controversial. It's only controversial in our modern day and age of Twitter because, let's face it, in 1960, I don't think people were up to the same.
Yeah, you could
15-year-olds are not really up to the same kind of thing as 15-year-olds up to now.
You could probably get away with it back then, couldn't you? She had been famous before, kind of. She'd been on Children's Hour on the BBC Radio, which, where she was starring alongside Violet Carson, and that was the one that Tony Warren had worked behind the scenes on. And when he couldn't find an actress to portray Ina, and he was like, "Oh, I know this woman that I used to work with." So Jennifer used to work with her. She was one of the original cast of 21, the only child actress there, and she took time off Corrie during the equity strike in 1961, where she appeared in the West End for a bit, and she had a bit of a musical career as well.
In the old days, they could all do everything.
Yeah, she was the first character to appear in Coronation Street after the equity strike was over.
What
needed some money, didn't she, for her teenage things, so she went back.
Probably need hats.
So let's find out all
Lots
about
of hats back in those days.
The life and times of Lucille Hewitt. Well, she was born in 1949 to Harry and Lizzie, raised in number 7 Coronation Street, and because she was the only child living on the street, she was often spoiled by her neighbours.
Why is that? Because they all died in the war?
I don't know.
They all got evacuated.
I don't know. They just don't have any children. Who knows? Tony Warren didn't want any more.
If you're the only child on the street, you should be shunned and hushed.
She probably was, seen but not heard.
Exactly. That's the favourite
Tragedy, Gemma. 1959. Her mum was killed by an out-of-control bus on an icy road. And it sounds very exciting.
A lot up north.
It's always icy up north, isn't it? That's the kind of thing you thought, I bet that looked great on screen, but no, that was 1959. That was before Coronation Street had even started. They should have invented something even more kind of crazy and outlandish to say, it just happened, but we couldn't show it.
A piece of the moon fell off and landed
right on her head, yeah.
But on the other hand, there was cheese for everyone for months.
So she was left a half orphan with just her dad to look after her, but he couldn't. Harry,
it's not men's job, is it? Look after kids. Send her off to the orphanage.
That's what he said. He couldn't look after her, so
that's what I do.
That does sound like a kind of an old thing to do. Can you imagine that happening these days? Your mum's dead. Sorry, go off to the orphanage. It's a bit. I can imagine her like on a Sophie out of the BFG.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's in your little 90s.
Oh, unloved child. But anyway, she in 1960 she got whisked away by the BFG and was brought back to Coronation Street in time for Christmas. She wanted to spend Christmas time with her dad, and he kind of let her stay, begrudgingly lets her stay.
That's probably because at home she got 2 Zatsumas and a walnut instead of just one.
Yeah, and
Christmas.
He said, like, you can stay as long as I don't have to look after you very much.
This guy knows what life's about, I say.
I read that he was kind of more of a loving father when his wife was still around, but he obviously turned into a bit of a git as soon as
he's more of a loving
died.
father when she wasn't even in the show.
No, but that's the backstory that was
He was
created.
a loving father, and then he was turned into an evil
child
monster.
hater. So Lucille got brought up by Esther Hayes at number 5 for quite a lot of the time when he was out at work. Now in 1961, next year, Lucille's aunt Alice moved in with the family, and Lucille returned from the old orphanage permanently. But the two didn't get on. She didn't get on with her aunt, and Alice moved back out again after a few months. There was success later in 1961 for Lucille when she passed her 11 plus, got into grammar school.
La-dee-da.
And then sadness when Harry, well, kind of.
What do you mean sadness? What,
Well,
Harry fell in love with him?
Yeah,
married?
her dad fell in love, got married with Concepta Riley, the Irish barmaid
Love
at the Rovers.
Concepta Riley.
I think it's a cool name, but Lucille didn't get on with her. They would have to compete for Harry's affections. So
look, this is a man with limited time and affection for women folk.
There was only
You
much
have to
time and affection
understand
you could
this.
give in 1961.
When you're a
You
man
couldn't
in
show it.
1961, you can only be affectionate towards one woman and one football
Well,
team.
I was going to say, yeah, women and football.
Mm-hmm.
Children.
And beer.
Yeah. Gemma, 1962. Can you read what
Well,
happened?
she got a half sister because a baby Christopher was born.
Yeah, Harry and Concepta got right down to it.
Well, she's Catholic,
Probably.
so straight in there. So
So to speak.
very enthusiastic folk. She was jealous because Christopher got all the attention, so she ran away from home.
This is a classic street and soap story, isn't it?
did you ever
Child gets jealous of new baby, run away.
You said you'd never run away from home, didn't you?
I never
Tell
run
me.
away. No, I
What
didn't.
a suck up.
Well, there was nowhere to go. I was brought up in a
Everyone's
village.
run away from home at least once. You could have run into the woods.
Oh, yeah, I could do that.
You could have at least packed your bags in a little huff.
Yeah,
I
but
bet you
I
had
was-
your own little suitcase when you were a kid, didn't you?
I didn't.
I bet you did. But you had a little one with rolly wheels.
I had no needs to run away from home. I was brought up very nicely
Oh, whatever.
by my lovely mum and dad. And when my
Yeah.
sister came along, I was a lovely brother.
I bet you were. But you were like, oh, more family to love.
Anyway, I couldn't have run away on a bus like Amy did today because it cost like £7 just to get to the next
Yeah,
town
it's
along.
true.
There's literally was nowhere for me to
I
go.
don't think you can call it running away when you use public transport. Anyway, it's cheating. You're supposed to run across the road or something, or go next door. That's what I did.
Well, she didn't get very far, and even
No.
Sharples persuaded her to go home.
She probably went, go back home, kid.
She was suspected of foul deeds during Concepta and
Oh, that
Harry's
sounds
1-year
awful.
anniversary party because Christopher went missing. Lucille had been asked to look after him, but she said to her mate, look, can you just look after my brother for a bit? And then when she comes back, the mate's gone, the baby's gone, and she is suspected of
Murdering
doing
him.
off with her brother or something, I don't know. But no, he was fine. Not Harry, what's the baby called? Christopher. He'd just been snatched away by Joan Akers, who was a disturbed young woman whose own child had died as a baby, which
I mean-
I think is a bit of a case of the Jenny Bradleys.
Yeah, it happens infrequently now, but back in the day, in the
Babies died
1960s,
left, right and centre.
no, they were always being snatched by somebody. It's fine, just wait for them to bring them back. It's like nappy rash. What's that thing where they keep coughing?
Whooping cough.
Whooping cough and being snatched by a child abductor were the three main maladies of babies in the 60s.
Well, surely it was around about this time when Chitty Chitty Bang Bang came out and they got the idea of the child catcher.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm going to be like him. He's a role model.
Child Snatchers, one of the greatest characters in fiction.
Yeah.
In 1963, Concepta kept trying to get Harry to move the family to Ireland, and the only reason he refused because he wanted Lucille to carry on her education in Weatherfield. I think that is prejudiced against Irish schools.
I'm sure that they do a fine job.
Weatherfield Weatherfield School's obviously the best in the country, or nay, the union.
Well, she was in a grammar school, wasn't she? So she was in a decent school. It wasn't like dodgy Weatherfield Comprehensive like everyone else goes to.
How dare you?
I don't know whether it was what's the posh school? Oh no, it's a private school, isn't it? That Rosie went to for a bit. Forget I'm talking. Anyway,
I often do.
The end of the year, Lucille ended up running away again. She got further. She got to London this time.
This is better. This is
child of the 60s. She was in. She was going after this pop star called Walter Potts. So I think
only in 1963 could you be famous as a pop star with the name Walter Potts.
No, I think this was one of Dennis Tanner's guys from his talent agency, and his stage name was Brett Falcon.
Oh, I like that.
So she went to London because apparently he was going to make a personal appearance down there. She also set up a fan club for him. But then in 1964, another girl claimed to be his fan club president.
I love this.
So Lucille got a tattoo on her arm proclaiming herself to be the true fan club president, and obviously Harry was pretty livid by this.
This plot is better than anything that's been in the show for the last 10 years. I want them to do this with Amy, with Justin Bieber.
I'd love Amy to get a little tattoo with Justin Bieber. The thing is, we're giving the soap character a tattoo. You've got to remember that for the duration of the time that the character is in the show.
No, you don't.
David's got a tattoo that says Tina up on his arm, hasn't he? He's probably never allowed to take his top off just in case.
They don't care about that.
Yes, they do. If David took his top off and he didn't have that Tina tattoo, people would be tweeting and complaining.
I know, but nobody pays attention to the crazy fans.
Yes, they do.
They're all crazy.
Oh, is that why nobody pays attention to her?
Yes.
So finally,
Harry gives up. He gets sick and tired of all this whinging and moaning of the women.
Come to Ireland,
so
Harry.
So he goes to Ireland, but he's a bit too early for the filming of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
very disappointing.
But Lucille said, "No, I'm not going." So they arranged
back in the orphanage.
Rather than going to the orphanage, they went to the next best place, which is the Rovers' Return, where Annie and Jack would look after her. And this is what I was saying earlier about her growing up a little bit in the Rovers under the roof of a pub like Amy. Now, Annie and Jack were a little bit old-fashioned, and Annie was a bit stuffy, wasn't she? So she struggled to keep up with looking after a teenage girl.
Can you imagine being such an old-fashioned person and trying to raise a girl that wasn't yours in the 60s?
Well, but when Annie Walker was young, that was probably back when they didn't have teenagers, wasn't it? So I'm not surprised that she didn't know what to do.
They just invented it,
and Lucille was going definitely through her rebellious phase at the moment. One point in the year, she faked an illness, got time off school, and then had a secret job in a record shop working under the fake name Miss Jones. But
I love this kid.
She was discovered and went back to school. 1965, she got into a relationship.
Spunk.
She got a boyfriend called Roger Wayne, who was a vegetarian, and he convinced her to be a vegetarian for a little bit as well. And then Harry went back to Weatherfield to sort Lucille out and get her to go back to Ireland with him. But again, she said, no, I want to stay here. I'm going to get my O-levels, go back to Ireland. So she got 5 O-levels, good for her. And then she went job hunting.
Yes.
Annie Walker gave her elocution lessons to help her get a job as a secretary. And I would have quite liked to have seen that. It reminded me of Ken giving Raquel her French lessons. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work. She got a job at the local cotton mill, which Annie did not approve of. But it turned out that Lucille was never happy with there because all the other workers were jealous of all them qualifications that she had. 5 O-levels, look at her.
Who she thinks she
is.
Is
Lording it over us.
Went to a grammar school.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Grammar school, getting 5 A-levels, that's a bit like, you feel shortchanged with that, wouldn't you? Yeah. She was also going out with the chemist, Kenny Stevens, at some point that year.
Do you mean a pharmacist?
No, I mean chemist, because that's what it said on Corriepedia.
But do you think that means somebody that works with chemicals as a scientist, or do you think it's somebody that works in a pharmacy?
I don't know.
I think it's a pharmacist.
I'm just going by what was on Corriepedia, and I don't think it says very much about him. It's just a bit of
Do you not think that
chemist
is a pharmacist?
Maybe.
In 1966, she dumped him, so it doesn't matter anyway, and she started dating Ray Langton, who is 2 years older than her, and he steals £5 for the Rovers and doesn't admit it, and she gets accused and gets into trouble.
This was Ray's first appearance on Coronation Street because he came in for a little bit, got involved with Lucille, turned out to be a bit of a dodgy geezer, and then he is. Well, she wanted to go and visit her dad in Ireland, and he stopped her. He also tried to pressure her into having a bit of a bonk.
No, don't do it.
And then he lost his job and he moved back to Weatherfield, away from Weatherfield for 2 years.
Definitely never sleep with a man who has no job.
No.
Don't do it.
She then got a job, and this is what we talked about last week in our Corrie history, as a welder in Elston's raincoat factory. And I'm convinced that it is just a term for somebody who puts
Gluing,
together
sticking,
PVC.
Melting plastic.
Yeah, Annie again.
I got in trouble for
do
doing
better.
that when I was little. She gets a job.
You get paid for it, it's not fair, is it?
No.
By the end of the year, though, she was engaged. She was a promiscuous sort, wasn't she?
No, she's just a bit Catholic.
She was engaged to Alistair Bradshaw, which, but it turned out from Dennis Tanner, he said that, look, this guy's engaged a whole string of women. So she quickly realised she didn't love him, and the engagement was over by New Year.
What a life.
I know, the whistle-stop,
I think
non-stop partying life of Lucille Hewitt
is actually my new favourite character. In 1967, she was working alongside Dennis as Emily's assistant at Gammon Garments, and they tried to convince her to dress in more modern clothes. Can you imagine? Emily was old-fashioned in 1967.
I know. This is hilarious about Emily Bishop.
I tell you one thing though, she is right. That's classic fashion that never goes out of style. She's been wearing the same clothes for like 50 years.
I know, it is. It's
not a
literally,
lot of people
50,
can say that.
50 years later, Emily is still
an old biddy.
Kind of around, yeah.
I mean, how you're not going to get less of an old biddy, are you?
I want to see what she's coming back wearing when she comes back from Peru.
A big beanie.
Yeah, or like, you know, ethnic wrap or something around
her. Some kind
her.
of kaftan.
Yeah.
And like a loose billowy scarf.
I'd love that.
Or a peasant blouse.
I want to see a brand new Emily Bishop coming back.
I wanted
You've seen the light in Peru.
A baggy pair of tie-dyed trousers.
Yeah.
And sandals. And
that'd be
beads.
brilliant, but she's got to come back for all this to happen. Come on. Harry and Concepta came back to Weatherfield again that year for Elsie and Steve Tanner's wedding. Concepta again wanted Lucille to move to Ireland with them until she's 21, but Harry said, no, it's all right, she can stay in Weatherfield, it's fine. But
then he gets crushed to death.
He got crushed to death later that day when he was repairing a van, so whatever he said doesn't count.
She says, I'll go to Ireland, I guess, for a bit.
Yeah, to be sure.
And then they get closer, her and her
at last,
stepmother.
our reunion and bonding between Concepta and Lucille at last. Back in Weatherfield in 1968, Lucille competed with Shirley Walton for Ray Langton's affections because he was back on the scene again, that dodgy guy.
No,
However, Gordon Clegg also fancied Lucille.
Does he have a job yet?
I don't remember.
I'll marry anyone who's got a job.
She thinks that he's too soft for her. Yeah. He gets into a fight with a police officer though, and she's like, "Whoa, that's a turn on," and she was soon engaged to that new bad boy Gordon Clegg.
Oh, I thought you meant the police officer.
No, she got engaged with Gordon Clegg. Now
she changes her mind when he fights with a police officer, and the pair are soon engaged.
Yeah,
so I thought you meant she got engaged to the police officer.
No, Gordon.
Well, I thought women loved a man in uniform.
Remember, Gordon Clegg was the one that was Betty's secret son, but back then none of this was out.
It was a proper secret.
His mum was still Maggie Clegg at the moment, and she is not happy with Lucille going out with Gordon. She'd rather that he just got on with his studies. She was too much of a distraction. Annie Walker was also trying to split up the pair, warning Lucille of Gordon's father Les, who was a bit of an alcoholic, and Annie thought it was hereditary, and if they got married, then it'd be passed down to all the future generations of Clegg Hewitts.
In 1968, that is when they invented science. So
that's how they know.
That's when they began learning about things like that.
Yes. They decide to go and get married in Gretna Green, but shucks, they missed their train, so it never happens.
The one train to Gretna Green. In 1968.
It was an annual trip.
Oh dear.
All the teenagers went up
there, never came back. In 1969, she plans the wedding for Easter Sunday, like we say, the yearly train.
Saturday. Get it right, Gemma. Easter Saturday.
Says it there. I'm sorry, that's not a real thing. But Gordon jilts her and moves to London as an accountant.
Oh, poor Lucille. But she consoled herself by getting a job at the betting shop later that year before moving to Ireland to get away from all her troubles. What was really happening, of course, was that the actress had was on maternity leave, because she'd married the first of her 5 husbands, this one the son of a millionaire. And I think if I married the offspring of a millionaire, that might end up being my one and only.
Me too. but you know, who knows what the next one was.
What goes on behind closed doors.
I mean, you don't go down from that, do you?
1970, she got back from the UK, maternity leave,
UK.
to the UK, sorry, and she discovered that Ray Langton is two-timing his fiancée Sandra with Audrey Fleming. And Lucille was a bit of a stirrer, and she, despite what Jack Walker was saying to stay out of it, she caused trouble. She was dropping hints to Sandra and eventually revealed the affair to Audrey's husband. She also had a bit of a... She just went from job to job after that. She had a bit of time working in the Salvation Army, but then she upset this grumpy pensioner that she was supposed to be helping, so she couldn't stick that job. 1971, she was back at the betting shop again, but she got mugged taking some money to the bank and she lost her job. She went on the dole.
Wouldn't be allowed to sack someone for getting mugged these days.
I know.
So it's a very dark time, the 70s.
Can't sack anyone for anything.
No.
Yeah, and then she got a job as a go-go dancer in a club. When she found this out, obviously Annie was not happy. So she strides over to this pub and finds out that it's actually owned by Newton and Ridley. So she was in a bit of a bind, because like, oh, I work for Newton and Ridley too.
So is go-go dancer a polite 70s way of saying stripper or pole dancer?
I don't think they had strippers back
then. What's a go-go dancer? Is it just, what is it? Someone with very small pants?
Probably. I think it's just someone who does little dances for men, but I don't think go-go dancers get their boobs out.
Do you have to supply your own pants, or do they give you the pants there?
I don't know.
Are these the sort of women that dance in like cages and things? What is a go-go dancer?
It's a very 60s and 70s thing, and that's all I know.
Is it like an Austin Powers back?
Yeah, think Austin Powers. Think Austin Powers 2 when he goes back.
Think about the fembots without the booby guns. Yeah. And that's probably what a go-go dancer looks like.
Yeah, Austin Powers has got 2 references in this episode today.
It's awesome.
It is awesome. I love that film.
1972, she drifted from job to job. Obviously, being a go-go dancer was not what she hoped it would be. She ended up being a wages clerk at a warehouse across the street, and she also worked at Benny's betting shop. I want to know what her CV looked like. Do you think she left go-go dancer on there? I see you were a go-go dancer for 3 months. What happened?
It probably helps you get a job in those days, doesn't it? Like
I've had a lot of experience as go-go dancer and a wages clerk.
Yeah.
And a welder in a raincoat factory.
You can work for me. You can bring your uniform. Sorry, they provided the pants.
They provided it. Yeah, and I didn't wash them, so they fired me.
Even then, you can't sell them on eBay back those days, can you? It's
dark times.
She got fed up in 1973 of Annie trying to control her life still. She moved into a bedsit. Then she moved into Elsie Tanner's house for a bit. And then we get to 1974, her final year on the street. Danny Burrows was her boyfriend then, but he turned out he was married. He lied a bit about this. He said, "It's all right, I am married, but I've been separated from my wife for 18 months. But actually, it had only been 6. Danny wasn't happy with Annie Walker poking her nose into the relationship. Put up with her for a bit, but there's only so much Annie Walker that you can take, isn't it? Imagine having Annie Walker as a mother and, adopted mother-in-law or whatever it'd be then.
Sounds frightful.
And then his wife appears back on the scene, and so Lucille's like, "I've had enough of this, mate. You're dumped." The last we see of Lucille Hewitt was late in 1974 when Maggie Clegg got married and Gordon came back to Weatherfield to see it, because back in those days, if you move away from the street, you can actually come back for people's weddings, which doesn't seem to happen anymore. Lucille remembered Gordon from all those years ago when they had that thing together, and she couldn't bear to see him again, so she went over to Ireland and she never came back. And that is the end of Lucille Hewitt. It was an incredibly sudden exit. She was even credited as appearing in the following episode, which she wasn't in. And I read that back in those days the episodes were filmed in 2 episode blocks. And even if you weren't in the second one, you'd still be credited or whatever. And it leads you to believe that she was sacked in between from when she filmed that leaving episode. I think she thought, "Oh, I'm going to come back. I'm always going off to Ireland." But in fact, they said, "No, actually, you're sacked." And that was the end of her.
The actress's personal life is fascinating.
Oh, I know. She was the reason that she was probably sacked so quickly and suddenly is because she was having real alcoholism problems at the time.
So she was fired for bad behaviour.
I know. God,
terrible.
I want to know more about that. Yeah, she was having alcoholism. Maybe I've got it. Alcoholism, And
No, you have to drink alcohol to get that.
I've got teaism. And she had a real rough time with it, but she ended up coming back to showbiz in the 80s. Basically, the rest of the 70s were a bit of a write-off for her, I think. She had a couple of small roles in the 80s. She was in The Merseysiders, which is a radio soap. She was an extra on Brookside. She disappeared again.
She was in that episode of Hetty Wainthropp.
And that's the highlight of anyone's career. If you're not going to be in the bill, Hetty Wainthropp is the way to go. Alan Halsall used to be in Hetty Wainthropp, and so did Dominic, what's his name?
Monogonogono.
Yeah, the famous Dominic Monomonogonogono from Lord of the
Hobbit.
Rings and whatever. He was Hetty Wainthropp's psychic, wasn't he? Oh, and before he was on Lost, of course.
He was called Master Wainthropp.
I know he wasn't. I can't remember what his name was.
Billy Bob Wainthropp.
Yeah, she was in that. She was in. There was soap shows and like talking about soaps and things. But that was kind of it. So she died 10 years ago. She died in October 2006 at her home in Scotland. She was happily married to her fifth husband, then Robert, a software engineer, who she got married to in 1989. So she stayed married to him for quite long.
She did not have a good time, really.
No.
Reading her biography, and she at one point she was homeless. She had a daughter that was mentally handicapped because she drank while she was pregnant.
Yeah.
One of her other children was taken into care, and she had a child that died when he was 3. Then she got in trouble for breaking and entering to get drink from a local Labour club.
It's surprising how many of these character profiles, the classic character profiles, end with tragic tales like this, isn't it?
Yeah, she sorted her life out, she said.
Fairclough, it's just awful.
She started going to Alcoholics Anonymous in 1982, but she ended up going to loads of court appearances for breaking and entering and shoplifting and stuff, but she got cleared. And like you said, she had 5 husbands. So the first one was the son of a millionaire. Imagine if that was the only way that anyone ever described you in your life. Like, this guy doesn't have his own Wikipedia page, literally. He doesn't even have a name.
Just the son of a millionaire.
He was the son of a millionaire.
That's all you need to be.
They divorced the next year, and then she married a motor dealer who was abusive. Then she married a man who was 10 years younger than her, and he was an alcoholic too. Then she married a liberal worker who was 18 years younger than her, and then she finally wed this computer software expert who's called Stephen Ramsden. He was a Cambridge graduate. Then she got back together with her daughter, Naomi, and then she became a grandmother. And then she went to, she met up with all the other Coronation Street stars because she started getting invited to launches and things. And sounds like she pretty much sorted herself out towards the end of her life, which is really nice.
Stephen Ramsden. I've got her last husband name is Robert. Look, software engineer Robert. You got it as Stephen?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, maybe they don't know about each other.
maybe one of them was her secret 6 husband that we don't know.
It says she basically, her father died when she was young and she started drinking because of that. But at the very end of her life, she went on a pilgrimage to India.
She turned it around.
Where she came to terms with her father's death. I think that is probably, the best outcome you could have had, really, for a life like that. It's nice to know that at the very end of it, she died. But it's so tragic how many of these ex-Coronation Street stars end up makes you wonder, doesn't it? Because anything happens. I mean, these days, if you write a tweet that someone takes the wrong way, you get hauled over the coals and you get your name. I mean, who was it? Was on the who's the actress that plays Liz?
Bev.
Bev Callard was on the front pages for watching EastEnders. So I mean, and we kind of act shocked and everything, but is what they get up to these days anywhere near the kind of things that...
See, I reckon this is why Barbara Knox is still on Coronation Street. She's like, if I leave the show, I'm just going to go right off the rails.
You can't stop me.
Yeah, she's going to drink, drugs, she's going to go right crazy.
I thought you were going to say it's because she's got so much dirt on everybody.
Probably that
she's
as
well.
Like,
you think I don't know how to work my phone, but I've been taking photos of you the whole time.
I want to know, Barbara Knox this week, apparently... Sal and Brooke convinced her to watch Love Island or whatever on Channel 3, and I want to know how she got on with that.
I don't even know what it is. Is it like Big Brother but on an island?
I think Love Island, from what I can ascertain, is just where they get a load of handsome men and beautiful ladies and put them on an island together and see who shags who.
So it's like Big Brother but on an island.
Basically,
So it's basically Big Brother if they set it on Isle of Wight.
Yeah, it's basically Big Brother, but it pretends that it isn't.
No
they're just trying to get them.
Yeah,
getting them not to have sex. So, but I want to know what Barbara Knox thought of that program.
Okay, right.
Is she going to be?
Imagine,
is she going to be the new addict, and is she going to apply to be on the next series herself?
I mean, imagine what morality was like when Barbara Knox must have been young. Okay, women were put in mental asylums for having children out of wedlock. Now picture what life is like now. Now, what is it going to be like when we're old?
I know. Times are changing.
There's probably going to be aliens.
Celebrity alien island.
People shagging aliens, and we'll be like, this isn't right. And then
our children... Come on, Gran.
Don't be so racist, Grandma. The aliens are just like us. I said, no, you watched Independence Day and tell me that they're like us. No one's as banned because it's racist. That was a good film, and don't you tell me otherwise.
There's a sequel coming out soon,
isn't there? I know. Can't wait. Or something.
And there we go. There's Lucille Hewitt. And
I
a bit
love
about
Lucille
the actress
Hewitt.
As well. It was new information. I didn't know anything about. I knew that she existed, but I didn't really know anything about her. And it doesn't sound like she was the most exciting of characters, to be fair. But I think she's still worth mentioning. I think she's an important character.
Not one of the most exciting characters. She was a go-go dancer and a wages clerk.
Look, if you take the original 21 cast of Coronation Street, where you've got Ken, you've got Ina, you've got Minnie, you've got Elsie, you've got all of these memorable
Lucille
characters,
Hewitt.
And then you've got Lucille Hewitt that nobody really remembers. But because she was in that original 21, I think give her props and respect.
I give her mad props.
Yeah, so I think she got mentioned again. You know when Betty died, and then she had that will that turned out that she was in charge of she was really secretly the Rovers landlord. I think Annie Walker also mentioned. She said, right, the Rovers, Betty can have it, and also Lucille Hewitt can have something as well. So that's when she last got name checked on the show, and probably that will be the last time that Lucille will get a name check on the show. So sad, but we'll mention her. So we're the last people to mention her. She'll live on through us.
No, they say you die when the last person mentions your name. Isn't that something you live on until the last person mentions it? So
following today's episode of Conversation Street, Lucille Hewitt
is officially dead.
No more. Yeah.
No, I'm going to mention her every day. I'm going to wake up every morning and go, "Good morning, Lucille Hewitt."
No, you don't say that. You say, "Top of the morning, Lucille Hewitt. How is it going in Ireland?"
She's my spirit animal.
Yeah.
That's it then.
That is it for Lucille Hewitt. Hope you enjoyed that, everybody, and learned something new, maybe.
That was probably my favourite character profile we've ever done.
No, it wasn't.
It was. I really like Lucille Hewitt. You think I'm joking, but I really like her. Well, this was probably the first time I was actually interested in...
Well, we'll find you some clips to watch.
No, I don't know. They say never meet your idols.
It's fine, it's fine. We met our old idols at the Soap Awards the other week, and we still survived it. Sally Ann Matthews met us, and she's still all right.
Wasn't that fun, everybody?
So much fun. Did we sound authoritative? Did we sound like we knew what we were talking about?
No, so much more about Lucille Hewitt.
Thank you, Corrie, for agitating me about Lucille. But now we've seen her. We've seen some on the old DVDs.
I love her, and I love her go-go pants, and I love everything about Lucille Hewitt. Really enjoyed her character. Still think it's hilarious that she got sent to an orphanage when her dad was perfectly capable of looking after her.
So funny.
Even though there was a bit where she came back after she'd at one point and she still had to cook him his lunch. I remember that.
I remember that. The Hewitts we just found strangely charming, didn't we? For a family who were... are not looked back on and remembered or anything really in Coronation Street history. Like when you think back to the early days, you ask somebody name characters from the the first few years of Coronation Street. Nobody's going to mention the Hewitts, but we quite liked them.
I really loved all the Hewitts. They were really charming. Harry Hewitt was such a sort of a man's man. Like the most stereotypical, like bloke.
Smoking his pipe.
Yeah, with his big pipe and his hat, flat caps, and like I don't know about women's business and raising children and things. And Concepta Riley, then Hewitt, who was just like the first barmaid, wasn't she?
Yeah, I think looking back on her, she didn't particularly strike me as being massively memorable or likeable. She was nice enough.
Yeah, she was nice.
Liked her accent. But Lucille, she was a funny one because she really wound me up at the beginning. The first few years when she was young, and it reminds me a little bit of like what we're getting with Summer at the moment in Coronation Street, where the actress was just a little bit too old to play the character.
Yeah, we talked about it in the profile. She was 15 when she was cast as an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah, so
and she also talked about in her personal life how difficult it was for Jennifer Moss to cope with the fact that when she was out and about trying to live her life, she'd often get lectured for doing things that children shouldn't be doing, even though she was of age, like drinking and stuff. That's
funny. But yeah, she wound me up a little bit at the beginning, but as she grew up, I grew to appreciate and like her more, and it was a shame when she had to bow out. I mean, she's not going to go down as a Corrie classic, amazing, memorable character, but I'm really glad that I've had the opportunity to see what she was like for myself, and when we eventually go back to watching some more of the 60s episodes, whenever that time shall come, I'll be looking forward to being reintroduced to the Hewitts again.
Yes.
So that is it. That's Lucille Hewitt. Thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back another time with another profile.
Bye.